Hey there friends, it's Liz from the Real Homestead. So in this week's video, I'll be cooking from scratch. I'm going to be preserving a few of my tomatoes. So I'm making tomato basil jam and a Marguerite pizza. And the twist is I'm making homemade mozzarella for the first time. It kind of turned out wonky, but it tastes super delicious and it melted really wonderful. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, let's get into the video. Speaking of cheese, we are trying the traditional cheddar that I had made back in June. I think it was June. It looks like it mended together really nicely. It has some mechanical holes in it. Tom and I are going to try a little slice of this, and then I was going to package it up in little triangles. So the flavor I got was a mild cheddar. It was nice and smooth, but I think it needs to go in the cheese cave for just a couple more months and it will have that traditional cheddar flavor, so hopefully soon. But that's exciting, trying our cheese, and hopefully in a couple months we'll be able to try a different kind. So I have them all packaged up and I'm going to pop them right back in the cheese cave. I'm actually really excited to try the Gruyere and the Jarlsberg cheese. I can't wait to try those. So I finally have enough tomatoes to make this really amazing recipe. It is called tomato basil jam, and I got it out of this book, The Better Homes and Gardens Complete Canning Guide. It has freezing, preserving, and drying. So the recipe calls for about 2.5 pounds of tomatoes peeled. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double the recipe, so I got about 6 pounds of tomatoes in there, and I'm just going to peel all the skins off. Then I'm going to add 7 cups of sugar, a half a cup of lemon juice, and towards the end, when I know the jam is going to pass the freezer test, I'll add my basil. So I'm probably going to add 3 tablespoons of basil, and I grabbed some out of my garden from the back. I have like a kitchen garden, or what I call an apothecary garden, and I actually have different herbs and spices all around the house, and another apothecary garden further back in the yard. I'm trying to find different recipes in order to use my basil, because I love to pop open a can in the winter time and just enjoy the beautiful basil that we had in our garden this summer. So the last time I made tomato jam, I used cinnamon and nutmeg and like a pumpkin pie kind of spice. So that was really totally different from this. And this tastes so amazing. It tastes kind of like a strawberry jam, but it's not. It's really unique, and my husband and I really love this jam. So I'm probably going to have to make another batch of this. So here I'm just getting the rings on finger tight, and I'm going to steam can these for a good 20 minutes. This steam canner has definitely been a blessing. I make my cheese with it because I can fit 4 gallons of milk, and I can all these beautiful jars of food with them. So this week I decided just to make a couple loaves of sourdough bread, and I was going to pop one in the freezer, and we are going to enjoy one of these for this week. The hubs has been asking me to make some sourdough donuts because I haven't made those in a while. So I think for the next video, I'll probably be making some sourdough donuts. Those cinnamon and sugar ones, those were pretty tasty. But this is what the bread looked like. It turned out really good, so I'm happy with that, and I'm gonna pop one in the freezer for later. And now for making mozzarella. So I'm definitely not a pro at this, but it turned out okay. It definitely was edible and it melted really nice. So I'm happy with the results because I made a beautiful pizza with it. So what you need is citric acid, and then I have some animal rennet here. I have a little measuring spoon, a teaspoon, and then some non-chlorinated water, and then I have that already mixed up. So it's 1 teaspoon of citric acid, and then I used about 1/4 cup of water. I'm going to get that all in the pan with the milk and give it a good stir. And I'm bringing this milk up to about 90 degrees Fahrenheit or 32 degrees Celsius. And there's a little troubleshooting note on the bottom of page 93, and it tells you that if the curd turns to the consistency of ricotta, try another brand of milk. But I don't have another brand of milk. I use Save-A-Lot milk, and I'm sure it was highly pasteurized at a very high temperature, but that's okay. I made it work. So here I'm just adding 1/4 teaspoon of liquid rennet and to a 1/4 cup of non-chlorinated water, and I'm giving that a good stir and stirring up and down like the book says, and then I'm going to let this sit for about a good 20 minutes. And now the 20 minutes is over, I am cutting the curd, and then I'm just going to start slowly stirring. You see how it looks like ricotta a little bit on the top? I kind of have some nice curds underneath, so I am not going to worry. I'm just going to continue, because sometimes you just try to trust the process and just keep going. Or as Dory would say, just keep swimming. So I'm just taking a slotted spoon and I'm pulling out all the curds, and I'm going to let that drip dry, and I'm going to come back and squeeze some of that whey out, but gently. And then in another pot, I'm going to get some water boiling around 180 degrees. And I think that's where it went wrong, because it was really hot and it was burning my hands. So I didn't really want to kind of roll up the ball and stretch it that much. I have my slices of cheese going in there, and we're just going to let it marinate for a little bit in the water. And then I'm going to pull these out and make balls. I'm definitely going to be wearing gloves because it's really hot. I think it was kind of too hot. And I have kind of a stretch there. It's supposed to be really stretchy, but I didn't quite get that stretch, but that's fine. And then in the bowl on the stove, I have some cool water with some ice cubes. And as soon as I'm done forming these balls, I was going to let them cool in the ice water for about 15 to 20 minutes. And then I'm going to add a couple teaspoons of salt to that water. And I'm also going to pop it in the fridge. And then later on, I was going to make a Marguerite pizza with these. My tomatoes have been trickling in from the garden, so I'm just going to pop these all on the windowsill and let them get ripe. So this week I also made a batch of banana bread because I had, of course, some bananas that were going to go bad. And in this recipe, I use my leftover apple butter from the cinnamon rolls that I made last week. And I just used the recipe, my Homestead apple banana bread, on my blog, thepeacockhomestead.com, and I doubled the recipe, so this is going to make 2 loaves of banana bread. I'm just going to pop one in the freezer for another week, and then we were going to keep this one out for breakfast and dessert and whatnot. We really like to have banana bread with coffee in the morning and an after dinner dessert. We eat a lot of pizza here, but that is okay. I love making pizza and just different pasta dishes. It is super fun. And especially when you make mozzarella for the first time from scratch, you definitely want to try it on a pizza. It would probably be good on a lasagna or a chicken parm as well. We would definitely have to try that. This is the pizza sauce that I canned last year. I used Roma tomatoes. I got my tomatoes from the Amish, and they definitely grow the best tomatoes. That's one of the tomatoes from my garden that's going to be going on top of the pizza. So I'm just slicing out my mozzarella. I did store the cheese with a couple teaspoons of salt in the bag, so that added a little extra flavor. So I'm just adding my tomatoes and the mozzarella, and then the cease to resistance, I am going to be snipping some basil on top of that. I got my oven preheated to 425. I'm going to cook it for about 15 minutes and check the bottom. It's usually pretty good in a 15-minute bake. Basil is definitely turning into one of my new favorite culinary spices, and it is actually a medicinal herb as well. It's beneficial in heart health, respiratory health, and it boosts your immunity. All right, let's get this little beauty in the oven, and I can't wait for this house to smell like a pizzeria. I have to say, it looks pretty fancy. I can't wait to dig in. This week I decided to make myself some protein balls. So for the recipe I just wung it, but basically I used almonds, dates, I used some sun butter, some peanut butter powder, and quick oats, and I found a little bit of cheese seeds left over in my spice cabinet, so I just decided to add those in there as well. So in there I have about, I would say, 11 dates, 1 cup of oats, a cup of smashed almonds, and I also have a cup of sun butter, 2 teaspoons of cheese seeds, and I also added 2 tablespoons of the peanut butter powder as well. Oh, and do not forget the chocolate chips. I added about a half a cup of chocolate chips, and I roll them into 2 to 3 inch diameter, and they were delicious. And I bring them for snacks for work. 2 of these bad boys will definitely keep the hangry monster away. For dinner on this night, I have a bunch of chicken thighs here. I put salt and pepper on both sides, and then I'm going to take some leftover plum barbecue sauce that I had in the fridge, about half a jar. I'm just going to slather the barbecue sauce all over the chicken and get it in the oven. And I'm just going to reserve a little to put on towards the end, just to make it so it looks like that beautiful barbecue chicken look, and it tastes really good too. So I got some beans. This is probably one of the last batch of beans that I'll probably be getting out of the garden. But that's okay, we really enjoyed them this summer. So here is what dinner looked like on that night. We just cooked a little bed of rice and put the beans over that, and the chicken definitely was the star of this dish. This week, my hubs actually requested me to make my sourdough Pop-Tarts because we had little bits of jam throughout the summer of making all of my batches of jam. I just had little jars left over, so I decided that I was going to make a batch of Pop-Tarts and get them all used up, and then I'll have my jars back. So I have little bits and bobs of jam. I have some peach jam, blueberry jam, I have blueberry basil jam, I also had tomato jam, and just a little bit of the strawberry rhubarb jam left over. So I'm gonna get these all filled. I actually got about 10 this time out of the recipe. I usually get 8, so I'll have to make sure that I roll them out really good next time, or every time. So the key to having all of the jam stay in the middle is making little vent holes on top. So I just kind of remembered what a Pop-Tart looked like with all those little bitty holes on top. That is so it vents because it's going to bubble, and then you can crimp the edges and all of the jam will stay right in the middle, right where it's supposed to. So I'm just brushing some milk around the edges, and then I'm going to fold them over and crimp the edges with a fork. I'm going to brush some milk on top, just a thin layer of milk, and poke holes with a really sharp knife, a few holes in each Pop-Tart. And then the cease de resistance, I'm going to add the pink sparkly sugar. The really great thing about these Pop-Tarts is you can flash freeze them, store them in the freezer, then pop them out and bake them fresh, or you can bake them and take them out and just enjoy them as is. They turned out really delicious, and I think next time I'm going to be making a glaze. And that's it, friends. That's all I have for you this week. I hope you enjoyed the video. Many blessings, and I will see you on the next one.